I'm sort of going to go back to the beginning, when we talked about yin and yang. And we talked about the three treasures: heaven, earth, humanity. And we talked about how in a human being, that heaven earth axis, which is a vertical alignment, is represented by our Shen and our Jing. In other words, the heart, kidney axis. But there's another way to look at this. We can say that if you look at our planet, right, we have 8 billion of us, maybe more now, I don't know, but 4 billion souls in, we can say, male bodies, right? And 4 billion souls in female bodies. So we can say from the human experience, heaven and earth is represented by these male and female bodies. And like when I talk about male and female in this transmission, I'm really talking about the yin yang principles, not the personality, not the character, right? So yin, we could say, is more nurturing, more holding, more supportive, like earth. And yang, we can say, is more clarifying, directed, future orientated. Really important to understand that if you're in a woman's body, you can have a much more yang perspective. Just because you're in a woman's body doesn't mean that you can't have a lot of those yang aspects, and vice versa. So the yin yang symbol, if we look at it from the point of view of male female, is very interesting, and I hope all of you read my article about that, right? Because what we present on the surface is not necessarily what we have to develop here on the inside. So if you look at the yin yang symbol, right, the white represents what? Yang, right? It's light, seen, active. And the dark represents the yin. And what do you see in the yin yang symbol? What do you see in the white? You see a small little yin. And in the black, you have the small yang circle. And just to flip you out even more, if you just go into that circle, that becomes another yin and yang in another dimension, and it just goes on into infinity. It's a completely holographic, multi-dimensional way of looking at it. It's not just a thing in 2D. It's multi-dimensional. So that little circle of black, you can say, also has yin and yang in it, right? And it goes on to infinity, all right? But for now, we'll just keep it simple and just think about, like, if you're in a male body, and so the male body has some of these yang aspects, right? Generally, it's bigger, it's stronger, not always, right? I'm gonna be careful not to be political here. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that what's hidden within the man is that yin aspect. And a man grows by bringing that yin forward in his life. In other words, all men have to go into the unknown to grow. That's how a man grows, right? That's why most men have a real hard trouble when they're with a woman, because the woman changes so much and is not very well known. That's why relationship is challenging for a man, because he can't put that feminine principle, he'd love to put her in a little box and say, okay, there you are. It doesn't work, right? Because the actual nature of the feminine is change, and it's mysterious. I just want you to understand it from the Taoist point of view, right? The yin-yang perspective. Now, if you're in a woman's body, right, and you've got that aspect of yourself, that mystery, the feminine mystery, women's are always changing. They're always going through changes. Their hormonal system is much more, we could say, more volatile than a man, and their wisdom is more spontaneous, all of those yin qualities. But how does a woman grow? She has to bring that inner masculine, that hidden yang clarity forward in her life to balance all of that yin in her life. And when a woman develops that, she can trust her feminine much more, because she has clarity about it. So, a good example of this, this is how relationships can help us, right? If we know these two principles, right? This is straight out of Jung's teachings. For example, so if a man loses his clarity, usually it's because he gets in a mood, his unconscious feminine, that black aspect, that black little dot in the yin yang symbol, has now taken over his clarity. And all women know when a man goes into one of those moods, he's not available, like he's somewhere else, right? And then usually, the unconscious thing a lot of women do is like they use their masculine then to try and figure out what's going on with him. Hey, what's up with you? She feels disconnected from him, right? And so if she's not aware, she'll use that masculine, which is the opposite of what he needs, actually. What he needs, in my experience, this is certainly my experience as a being in a male body, he needs his partner to become more yin than his mood. And that's what will bring him out. When you see a man in a mood, you're like, hey, honey, see you're really having a hard time. I'm here if you need me. I'm over there. But yeah. And you just trust that feminine principle in you, that if you stay deep in that yin, he's going to eventually, something's going to shift in him, right? Because he has to grow like that. He has to learn about his feelings. He has to learn about those deeper parts of himself that are unconscious. And if I look at my own journey through my spiritual journey, I was always having these moods, positive moods, negative moods, for years. But as I grew, as I dived into that feminine in me, that wisdom in me, that unknowing in me, I noticed my moods became much more, I don't really have moods anymore. It's rare that I have that I'm taken over by that, right? Because I trust that feminine. I love that part of me. I love that wisdom that's deep inside of me, that's buried deep inside of me. So in my article, I talk about that relationships hold a stable place for you to explore this. But until you learn how to bring that inner aspect of yourself forward, you want to become more whole, right? And this is one of the big challenges in relationships, is that we expect the other person to make us whole. Remember, heaven and earth, the big issue for humanity and big issue for this, we can say, this drama of this physical incarnation, seeing all these wars and everything like that, that is the separation between heaven and earth, right? Between spirit and matter. It's not really separated, but in human consciousness, it feels separated. It feels like we've just been thrown in onto a prison planet or something like that. But we cannot hope to integrate that heaven and earth without resolving this male-female within ourselves, okay? Because it's just the nature of being in a male body or a female body that we have this challenge. And of course, doing something like bone breathing, which is integrating that vertical axis of heaven and earth, male, female, fire, water, right? Those are the extremes of yin and yang inside of us. The kidney is the yin and the fire is the yang, right? And so when we do bone breathing, we start to align this vertical axis, right? But we also have to deal with the horizontal. Now, this is where it gets challenging, because not only are we dealing with just our male-female issues within us, but we're also dealing with ancestral. When a child's born into a family, right, the child has to resolve, and Jung talks about this, the unconscious aspects of the mother and father. Anything that the mother and father are unconscious of, the child takes that on. It's just the nature of how life happens, right? And then that gets even more deeper when we realize that your father had a father, and back in line, the male bloodline and the female bloodline. So this is why personal relationships are so challenging, because it's not just a man and a woman there. It's a man with an unconscious woman inside of him and a woman with an unconscious man inside of her, and all the unresolved ancestral issues. That's why relationships are so challenging. And nature's so smart, it makes us sexually attracted. We have our honeymoon, and then all the ancestral issues, we make a commitment, especially in marriage or something, you sign something, and then all the ancestral issues come in, right? Oh, did I sign up for this? I just wanted a beautiful woman in my life. So the question becomes, how do we resolve that? How do we resolve those horizontal influences to support us in our bone breathing practice, to support us in our heart kidney alignment, right? And so the Taoists have a great way to work with that. They use the sun and the moon, very pure aspects of the yang principle and the yin principle. So the sun and moon don't have identity issues. They don't have ancestral issues. They're just pure embodiments of that yin yang principle. So what we're going to learn today is something I've personally developed, just saw that it was really important, where we're going to connect to the moon and bring that moon into where? And it doesn't matter if you're in a male or female body here, right? Because it's the same for all of us. But we want to bring that moon into the most yang place in our body, which is the heart, which is the fireplace. Why? Because deep inside that heart is that yin, is that still yin, that inner principle that's supporting your fiery heart, your emotional heart, your judgmental heart, your impatient heart. Okay, so a lot of the unconscious yang aspects are stored in the heart, and a lot of the unconscious yin aspects are stored in the sexual organs. So the sexual organs, very yin place. So we bring the sun there to awaken up the creativity that's there. Remember, within the yin is a hidden yang. So within your sexual center is all this creativity, is all this potential that can come out of that place, right? That is the root of your creativity, right? But it's covered over with a lot of what we can call the yin ancestral issues are stored there in the sexual center. So remember, everything is, in Tao alchemy, everything's a little bit upside down. So you have this fiery heart, but deep inside you have the spiritual heart, which is its yin aspect. For example, the sun, right? The sun is very yang, right? When you look at it physically, very yang, but it's got a hidden yin aspect. What is that hidden yin aspect? It's the gravitational force. It's invisible, right? But it's affecting everything. It's much more powerful than just that light. That gravitational force is all the planets and are revolving around that. And that's the yin power in the sun. Look at our Earth, right? On the surface, very water, right? What's deep inside the Earth? Magna, fire, hidden fire within the water, within that water planet. It's not so much what's presented on the surface, it's what's inside. Same as when you're in a relationship. It's not what the woman or the man is presenting to you, it's that unconscious aspect hidden inside that needs to be brought into consciousness. So this is why I love alchemy, because it addresses this issue, right, very deeply. In the more advanced training, you learn how to take this inner masculine, inner feminine, have them make love inside your core channel and open up that third force, right? And we're doing a little bit of that already in what we're doing. But today I'm going to introduce you a way to bring the sun and the moon into your practice, to speed up your horizontal development. That's sort of the theory behind it. It's a deep subject, this, but as always, practice is better than word. But just trust me, deep inside your fiery heart, your emotional heart, your judgmental heart, your impatient heart, your guilty heart, all these sort of, very volatile yang qualities. Deep inside is this deep peace, this like ocean, right? This deep peace, this deep quietness, this hidden yin. And deep within your sexual center, which carries a lot of the yin issues like repression, repressing the creative impulse, not allowing the creativity to come forward in your life, right? It's mostly about repression. It's about repressing that feminine principle. And actually, this is an important thing that I want to talk about. And this is about what's coming forward now in the collective, right? And so thousands of years, the masculine principle through the patriarchy has been dominating, pushing down the feminine principle and suppressing it, repressing it, controlling it. That's another aspect that's hidden, right? That's stored in the sexual energy, this idea of controlling and repressing and pushing down. And collectively, as a race, we're going through this shift where the masculine mind is learning how to serve the feminine heart. So the masculine is learning how to, that's his proper role actually, is to serve that feminine principle that's within all of us. This is why, in coaching, they ask you to get very in touch with your values, because values are a yin aspect. They're like the virtues. And when you're in touch with your values, those values are unchanging. They're yin, they're stable. You can change your values over time, but they're like principles. So if you have the value, for example, of love as your first value, and you get really angry about something, but that principle of love is guiding that masculine mind, and so you might not necessarily act on that anger because your deepest value is love. So we are in a cosmic shift, which also has a lot to do with the fact that we're not in the age anymore of teachers and gurus. That's an old masculine paradigm, right? We're more in an aspect of where the feminine is rising up inside humanity, and it's more about a group awakening, a collective awakening, working together, bringing our individual genius together and working together, allowing that deep mystery inside of us to guide us, right? And to allow us to unfold in life. What you're learning here, the bone breathing, is a direct pathway to integrating this, to bringing this new, we can say, this new consciousness into being. Right? And all of you're learning, oh my God, there's so much hidden inside my bones. Oh my God, well, didn't realize that was there. Right? That's the hidden feminine coming up, right? That's that hidden wisdom inside of you coming up through the practice.